warm welcome to Michael and Ivanka's Grand Podcast, a weekly podcast where the two of us, I'm a sort of like self-sufficient startup mogul and creative flights of fancy boy, and Ivanka, who is, I don't know how this structures, but
I'm a user researchy person who is a mother.
Which is a sort of tech job where you put a thing in front of someone and go, what's your thing of that?
Do you like it? You go, do you like it?
Do you like it? And then puts post-it notes. But yeah, this is a podcast where we just try and figure out what we think about everything. So we just talk over subjects. My name's Michael Forrest.
And I'm Ivanka Majic.
My name's Michael Forrest. And I'm a thing. And I'm Ivanka Majic, and I'm a thing. Maybe that's the structure.
I need to practice my intros.
We should do it. We should probably do it like off the recording. But now it's in the recording. I don't care. But anyway, like this week, we're going to talk about. It's a subject that I pushed for after reading this article, the Michael Scott theory of social class. And it sort of stratifies people into sort of losers in the sense of economic losers, clueless people in the middle managements, the Michael Scotts, the Ricky Gervaises, or whatever his character's called. What's his character called? David Brent. And then the top is the sociopaths who sort of have all the power and influence and control and, run things. And how there's like a layer of, they put this layer of clueless people in the middle to just keep the thing from imploding. But it's an interesting economic theory, but what it does do is talk about those sociopaths in terms of the leverage they have, and how if you're a salaried employee, loser is being used as a technical term here, and in some ways a loser is doing a lot better than a sociopath. But the idea that the losers are the ones that don't have any leverage. They just have to take the salary and do the job, and hopefully they don't run out of money before they die. Whereas the sociopaths have this thing called leverage, whatever it is, that allows them to, they use the way that they are capable of behaving to amass power and amass this ability to sort of get other people to do what they want. And it's just notable that it's not something that we have, not terms that we ever think of.
So is leverage the ability to use your power, or your intent to use your power, or is it? Because how is it different?
It's the power to get what you want. No, it's how you get. It is power. It is a definition of power. Like leverage is the power to influence people and get what you want.
Right.
So it's just like it's a different way of thinking about what actually power is. And we've talked about like the. In terms of like conservative values versus, like the way that there's this like, if you're not using this intelligence and mental bandwidth to try and empathise with people, then maybe you're probably using it to try and think about how to get one over on them. And I think this is a way of like opening that up a bit and looking at that's what they're after, is leverage over other people. They're not after how can we make everybody sort of happy and everybody in a, so I just thought, let's have a talk about that.
Cool. I'm up for it.
How's it going, Ivanka?
It's going very well, I think. I had some days off, which was nice. And
that's why we missed last week.
Yes.
We forgot to warn people again.
Sorry. I went away. I went to a different part of Croatia and stayed in a different place and didn't see anybody. But it's quite nice because we went for a walk. We went out to a national forest. It's a very different geography. Croatia has a very rich tapestry of different reliefs for a very small country.
Must be nice.
It was nice. We went up and walked along amongst very tall trees and with proper forest canopy. And when the wind blew, it sounded like there was a river. and that kind of thing.
Video patrons can see video of that in the interstitials?
Possibly, yes.
Did you capture any
we did some
of the
videos.
Majesty on camera?
We did there was some Majesty on camera. And we saw deer in the wild. They are not on camera because we were just in the moment rather than doing selfies. You should enjoy the moment. And so it was a nice change. And I did a talk yesterday.
Ooh,
at a company. A company paid me to do a talk, which was nice. And I've got I just received an email with some feedback about my quote unquote excellent talk.
Excellent.
So that's nice.
Good.
Because you always feel one thing about this whole being locked away from the world is when you do a talk, you're just talking to yourself and your computer. So it's a bit weird and it's hard. But I think now that we're a year in, I don't overcompensate quite as much as I did at the beginning of lockdown. So I'm getting slightly better at doing presentations to my own face on a Zoom or Teams call. Anyway, so that's about it, really. How are you?
Cool. I'm good. I'll tell you, I've written down one thing. My pedal on my bike, I was going down the road and it just like fell off. And I was like, what? It was a quiet road, but I was like, oh, my pedal's fallen off. And I had to sort of turn around and pick it up. And then I was trying to sort of get home on this, like, the slippery, remaining horrible shaft on the one pedal. And so I sort of got my bike home, and then I was really busy the next morning, and I had loads of and then I left the house. I went downstairs. I was like, oh, my bike's got a broken pedal as well. So I thought, let's just see if the bike shop is open. And I wheeled it down. I actually went down on it. I got, you just pedal on one side. That's fine. So I went down to the bike shop. And I sort of knocked on the door because they come to the door for you in this shop now. They don't you can't walk in the shop. But I sort of put my mask on, knocked on the door. There's one other person there sort of waiting. I think he'd already been seen. The guy came out. I said, look, because I didn't really know how to replace the pedal. I was like, which bit do I need? Do I need the whole bar, or do I need the end? It's like, I think something off the inside is broken off, and I was just like, I don't know. I had to literally go to the bike store because I didn't know what to do. And usually, I replaced my brake pads last week, so I'm not completely useless, but I just didn't know what I needed. So I thought, instead of ordering something on Amazon, I'll just go and see a person and say, what do I need? And he was like, oh, you just need the pedal. There's metal ones or plastic ones. So I was like, have you got any plastic ones that are smooth that we could that you could use in bare feet on the exercise bike? No. Beside the point. I'll take the metal ones because clearly I've broken some metal ones before. And he says, okay, well, it'll take me 5 minutes to change them. I'm like, what? You're gonna change the pedal for me? And it's going to take 5 minutes? And I was like, really? And he just went away and did it. And I just stood there and he brought it out. And I was like, oh, you've done both of them. And it was 20 quid for the pedal and the having it changed. And I was like, that felt amazing. Paying someone for a service felt bloody amazing. I was like, I need to do this more in my life. Because everything I have to do it. Everything that's in my brain, taking up space, every admin task, everything that I'm like, oh God, I've got to do that. I've got to do it. And just this idea that, oh my God, I can pay someone else to do a service, just change a thing. And because it would have taken me 40 minutes, I would have been filthy. I'd have had to, I would have started crying. I don't know.
Did he at any point explain to you what a pedal was or anything like that?
No, he didn't patronise me even. He just looked sort of a bit I don't know. Oh yeah, okay, fine, I'll help. It wasn't beautiful service or anything. It was just but he just did it, and I was like, that was wonderful.
It is great.
And it started me thinking this is why you employ people. This is why you work with other people. This would be such in a way, such a silver bullet for me at the moment, because I've got too many things to do. I've got too many projects. When I spend too much time on one thing, it just means another thing isn't getting looked at. And that's what it is, isn't it? That's why you have other people on your team, and they're looking at, and they say, oh, I've done this, and you go, what? That's so much better than I would have done. Yeah, I was just thinking, and it sort of got me thinking about this. Can I do like could I do like a little tech apprenticeship program for Good to Hear? Like get some like graduate and like do it all over Zoom or whatever, and just I don't know, just get someone. Because I wish I could. It's a problem, and we'll come on to this in the episode subject. The thing that stops me, I kind of feel like I need leverage to get people to do what I want. But yeah, we can open that up. But yeah, just had a wonderful experience with that.
Well, that sounds delightful.
So,
leverage.
So leverage is getting people to do things, because if they don't, there will be consequences for them that you can exact on.
Is it quite literally using a lever?
It's going, I'm paying you, so you have to do this spreadsheet. Sorry, there's no other way about it. You're just going to have to do it. And it sort of takes away that whole like bargaining and like, please, can you do it? You just know my leverage is that I'm paying you to do it. Do it.
Gosh, if it were only that simple.
Well, yes. I mean, there's
like, why do I have to do that? Because it's your job.
And we always talk about this from the perspective of the employee, saying, look, no, I need you. And we always try and like say, look, you have leverage too in a job interview, in a negotiation. They're not just giving you something, you've got something that you're giving as well. So stop. So one thing is just to realise that maybe we all have a bit more. You don't have to be a sociopath. Well, I think the reason that this article talks about I think what it means by sociopaths is people that are prepared to have an uncomfortable conversation or talk in sort of a slightly more coded language to get what they want, that isn't necessarily sort of polite and friendly and sociable and, like nice, the way that people that don't want to do that are more comfortable doing. So is a sociopath just someone that's going to go, no, I'm going to sort of slightly go outside the bounds of what is socially acceptable politeness so that I get something that I need. And I think that's what a sociopath is in this context. And it's in that sense, like, yeah, I'm very happy to use. And I think leverage doesn't have to be I've started with money. It can be I have these skills that you need and no one else has got them. So you're going to have to put up with me being an arsehole. Because
I've gone quiet because I'm thinking about is the difference between a sociopath is it about sort of politeness and social norms, and I don't people can be very blunt, and that's not necessarily rude, and maybe it's about what leverage you use, like if you don't do this I will fire you, or if you don't so when you're if we talk about things like the Me Too movement and giving people directors asking for sexual or inflicting misusing their
significant leverage.
So it's that sort of. I don't think it's the manner in which you do it. I think it's the what you're using it for, or what you're trying to gain by it, that makes it that kind of bad.
Well, so you have the power. Whether or not you use that power for good or evil is a separate question.
Yes.
But like, I just as a sort of really straightforward, as a really immediate example for me, like Sharon is very much not a sociopath. Sharon is someone that wants people to be happy and feel comfortable. She's in a job at the moment and has been for a while where that doesn't get you very far. That gets you sort of because she's got like. Some Michael Scotts to deal with, but then she's got like I think she does okay with. There's this whole article is very interesting. I would recommend it, and it's about like the way different people talk to each other. And there's the sort of middle management. Everyone they're sort of living in this slightly woolly, like made up fictional world, and they're sort of super loyal to this fiction, the company, in a way that someone who's actually like in power doesn't think of it that way.
Yeah,
They see the reality of it, and the people that work for it see the reality of it. I do this and I clock off, or whatever it is. Like, this is, you've got to understand the situation. The people in the middle don't understand the situation, and so to talk to them, you have to use baby talk. Like, you sort of have to kind of keep them warm and just play their silly games. And so everyone talks to the middle management with the losers and the sociopaths, but use baby talk on those people. But then, but the between the sociopaths, it's like power language. What is it? Power talk, where you're sort of everything you say has like these implications, and you're aware of the leverage you have, and you're withholding information. You're sort of like implying that you want something in return for this cooperation, and all that kind of thing. The loser language is game talk, like, how do we get through the day? How do we deal with this? But then, like, it's interesting how when a company starts, it's just sociopaths and losers. Like, it's just people doing work and living in actual reality. And when they talk to each other, they just, real talk. It's just like they don't. There's no coded language. It's just like the situation.
I didn't read this. I read that article when you showed it. I was like, okay, I'll leave it in a tab, read it later. But the more you're describing it, the more I'm like, I love it as an analogy, because I can see, it's like I can really see the parallels drawn. It makes it interesting to me whether I've ever bought into the middle bit. That,
I did wonder if you would see, like, one of the examples of the sort of middle of the what do they call them? The sort of delusional. What is it? The clueless is what they call them. One of the examples is blue tick Twitter, and it's sort of like. I was like, I hope Ivanka, because there is a sense in which we kind of rant and rave about all the wrongs of the world in a sort of semi-performative way. Like, we believe it, we care about it, but we have no power to do anything about it most of the time. And so there is a real way in which it's a sort of. It's an artificial space where we make ourselves feel better by talking about it, but we have no real leverage to actually make anything change, apart from sort of like hoping that, we hope to inspire someone with our amazing insights. But that's not the game that the sociopaths are playing. No. And it's also a game that, working people don't have any time for either. It's just like, I've got whatever.
So blue ticks aside, I think in organisational settings, I think I can't bring myself into the middle layer. That's why I'm thinking about I'm thinking about places like Canonical and those middle management layers of the, and these kind of like, there's multiple examples of places that I've gone to work where exactly what you're saying, that's not realising that it's a game. And I can even think of examples where I'm quite convinced that me and the director spoke to each other, me going, I know this bullshit and you know this bullshit, from slightly different positions. But so
all these people in the middle, I can't deal with those places. Because I don't have the patience to speak baby talk. But actually, this one thing that's really interesting about this article is the value that the clueless people add. It's that their loyalty is one of those crazy things. They have this loyalty to the company that has given them, they sort of feel like, because they get these job titles and they get these salaries and they feel so grateful to this thing, and they really believe in the reality of this company in a way that the people that do the work don't. They're just like, no, I mean, I've got these skills. I can take these somewhere else. I'm making a marketing thing for a freaking, a bank or something, or a shampoo. I know this is stupid. But one of my favourite examples of baby talk is from, I think it was the Ricky Gervais one, was so Daryl is the warehouse guy and Michael Scott is the manager, and they're sort of negotiating a salary change, and Michael Scott's like reading the Wikipedia article about negotiation. It's like, reorganise the room so to put them off balance. Only succeeds in putting himself off balance by rearranging the room. But like his he insists that Daryl writes down what he wants as a salary for his salary on a piece of paper and slide it across the table. And then when Daryl just gives it to him, he's like, no. Daryl has to. The baby talk is Daryl goes, okay, and slides it across the table to him. And that's just one example. That's the sort of baby talk that you have to use to sort of speak to people that are sort of signed into that world. But where I started with this is like Sharon is not a sociopath. Yeah. Sharon wants people, but like she's been put into a position where like she can't get what she needs by just baby talking the middle management. But like she's, just very uncomfortable using her leverage, and I'm really proud of her when she does it because I'm like, just use it. Like they need you. Don't take all this shit. Like just But it's hard to become a sociopath, and I always breaks my heart a little bit. I just want her to not do this job because it forces her to have to occasionally be a little tiny bit of a sociopath in order to get just some of the ludicrous amount of unreasonable pressure kind of like hopefully retargeted or whatever, so that she's not just like hives level stress. But it's interesting to see it laid out because, like, I see her having to do it, and she doesn't want to do it. Whereas I've always been like, I remember like my grandfather was like a CEO of a company, and he gave me, when I started doing job interviews, he gave me his binder that he got from his corporate interview training, and it was all, this is a meeting, and it was really all about leverage and like I'm giving you something, you're giving, and that's and I've always been, especially as I've felt more confident in what I have to offer, I've less and less. But I don't talk baby talk to those middle management people. I just talk like real talk. The way I use it in a situation, I don't know.
It's very tricky. It's really tricky what you're describing. The reason I'm not adding much is because I think it's really tricky, because those people, you don't want to disrupt their reality because you know that it's going to crush them. They really believe it. They're going to be so sad. And it's not that I don't necessarily love the company or love the brand, but it's like, it's more of that sort of just reality. Just you reminded me of this quote my dad used to bring from, I'm sure I've said it on the podcast, in one of the last 157 episodes. It was a Montenegrin epic poem from the whatever century, 400 or 500 years ago, and it's like, I'll call you Duke, you call me Bishop, and we know what shit we are, is a very paraphrased translation. It's like this pretense that we can create around ourselves, that the fiction of life. And sometimes I think that fiction is valuable, but sometimes it also, because the reality of life can be quite difficult, but sometimes in the case of this, us perpetuating it allows the sociopaths to amass more and more power, I think.
Yes. It sort of protects the sociopaths from the people doing the job.
And it does nothing for everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the worst failure of a middle manager is to the losers class is forced to remove them from the equation and talk straight to the people in power, and now the people in power have to deal with a problem. It's when you are like being put under all this pressure, effectively by the sociopaths, but via these middle management people that don't know what they're doing. That's where it becomes. That's why I don't want to ever deal with that, because I don't want to talk to someone that doesn't know all that. That's why I only like to talk to the CEOs. I just want to talk directly to someone that understands reality.
It's just theatre. It's just theatre. It's like, I remember, particularly at Canonical, like, what did you all watch some 80s movie about, like, what it looked like to be a manager? What the fuck is wrong with everybody? It's like, what are we doing here? Who are we? And it's not everybody, and it's not exclusive, but you just see people and you're like, what what? But it is theatre. It is made up, and it requires energy to perpetuate as well.
Yes,
it's like if we all but I also think that going back to your politeness thing, there is a thing where I think politeness has crept over into theatre. It's like, of course we have to be polite. You can't just walk into work in the morning and, how are you? Oh, fuck off and leave me alone. You just can't do it. So you have to be polite, and you have to retain some social norms, and you don't have to be brutally and bluntly honest with somebody when they're clearly having a bad day or something. But too much pretending, because manners is really pretending, isn't it? Thank you for asking.
But like, it sort of depends on it does depend very much on the reality, because if the reality is that things are pretty cool and like everyone's getting paid well and we're doing stuff and we're moving towards something good, then like it doesn't really cost much to like, say, okay, I guess you're not doing very much, but it's fine. I'm fine. It's when you're not fine, like that it becomes takes a lot of energy to kind of, because it's fun to pretend. It's fun, that fiction. It is. I mean, we need it. It's rich and it's like enjoyable and like, why not?
Yeah.
But it's weird to think it's weird to think when there are so many real problems in the world that it goes back to bullshit jobs as well. It's amazing that so many people spend all of their time just in this sort of fictional reality that doesn't really affect what's really going on. Michael Scott is a brilliant salesman. And there's the Peter principle, which is like you get promoted to the level of your incompetence. But the idea of this Gervais principle is to sort of go beyond that and say, no, but the reason that the sociopaths aren't that stupid. They're not just like promoting everyone outside the level of their incompetence and not realizing that it serves a purpose to put those people in those positions. And it's important sort of economically, but it's, I guess it's the way, and it takes a certain sort of person to embrace that. Someone who's maybe not, they could be good at their job as a salesperson, but they're not bright enough to really see what's actually going on. So not everyone can sort of occupy that space. So I always have this idea that, like, what my point was, like, I always have this idea that if everyone could stop doing the bullshit jobs, we'd have so much more brain power freed up to do real work. Let's invent some new kinds of fake meat. Let's market. Let's create marketing around stuff that's real. But there's some human need and some sort of section of humanity that either does not ever want that or is maybe just not capable of it.
Well, I think this is a good segue into a point. I think it's quite interesting because I think it's just there's a couple of things. One, it sounds like a new kind of religion. Okay, we can't. It's because it serves as, in the olden days, the church had more power, and getting people bought into the theatre of that was useful. Yeah. It served a purpose. Yeah. Bizarrely, as a tangent that you might find surprising, I was reading Miss Marple while I was on my holidays because I love a bit of Miss Marple. But I don't know why. I was rereading things I've read before because that's how my brain relaxes. But I hadn't realised what a classist she is. When she's talking about maids and things, those people, they can only behave like this. It's like a way of, it is, again, that sort of whole thing of people in power retain power by having enough people that don't question them. And that's what, like this is like, if you promote somebody who's just loyal, you're rewarding their loyalty, they're going to protect your position. Whereas an Ivanka is not going to protect you.
We're not loyal not people blindly. In that way. We're not loyal to people that are clearly exploiting us. We're loyal to people that respect us.
I also think it's disloyal and disrespectful personally to not tell the emperor that they're not wearing any clothes. Do you know what I mean? It's like, mate, something's wrong. I say this out of respect to you, not because I, so it's that, I think, but, I don't know how come I ended up that way and not the other way, but it's
and maybe it's just an innate thing, like some of us are, I don't know. We're sociopaths.
We're sociopaths without power. Oh no!
I mean, we clearly have some kind of power. Like, because I was thinking, do I need to learn how to be a sociopath so I can be more successful? And then the more I kind of dig into it, I was like, no, I've been a sociopath this whole time. But the thing I leverage is, the fact that I've done a decent job of leveraging my privilege and my work ethic and just the things I'm interested in to sort of create a certain amount of freedom. But it's like to get to that next level of, I don't know, like it's still a very sort of private. I think because I think I'm not enough of a sociopath to go the next level, which is to start worrying about whether or not I'm exploiting people.
I would wonder if we're just sociopaths with like some sort of set of community values that are sort of like societal values that mean that we can't break society for anything that means that you're trying to undermine society to your own end doesn't sit well enough. Like, no. Unlike a Bezos or somebody who really clearly couldn't give a fuck about anything or anyone. It's that sort of like, there's a break, there's somewhere around us, it's like a bit that makes you go, I can't do that bit, that's like wrong.
I'm a sociopath but I'm not, because I feel, I had this in a leadership training thing, and I'm sure I mentioned it, but like I've got this difficult thing of I'm able to behave sociopathically, but then I feel really guilty about it afterwards. So it's like I can do it, but then I'm like, oh God, I'm a terrible person. So it's a difficult set of personality traits to reconcile. So it's sort of, sometimes I feel like that's kind of locked me into this strange little corner, but it's quite a cool corner. Like I can't really complain, but it means I can't buy that penthouse anytime soon. I don't know if it's even ever possible without me letting go of some of that sort of not wanting to be a sociopath.
I don't know if those 1,300 billionaires stopped hoarding all that wealth, maybe more of us would have more of the things we wanted. I don't know.
Yeah, well, we certainly would, but do they feel like that's the leverage that they built up and that that's what they're protecting? Like, is that like core to it? I mean, it is.
I mean, in truth, they really can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
There are no consequences.
Have I said my not Bezos, but my Musk theory?
Oh no, go on.
I'm starting to. This is a bit of a tangent, but I'm starting to really worry about Bitcoin and the way that. It's sort of subsided a little bit, but this creating this incentive for the most rich and powerful people to amp up their resource use, because it's all about how many resources can you burn is how many Bitcoins you can have.
Yeah.
And that's dark once you start like scaling it to, once it gets more and more mainstream and more like rich people start investing in, it's just like, here is a way to accelerate climate change. And once rich people start connecting their wealth with it. But my theory of Jeff Bezos is, Elon Musk, is he wants to, because the smart thing to do, space has way more resources. Solar-powered satellite is going to help you mine an awful lot of Bitcoin. And then, unlike the problem with energy is not so much that it's not available; it's just that it's hard to transfer to the Earth.
Yeah.
And this is the theory of the Jewish space lasers, which Sharon's still waiting for a go on. But is that they're sort of like getting energy from space, and they like missed the receiver, because like you'd have to like microwave beam the energy from space, and that's really, really dangerous. But if you just want to go up there and mine Bitcoin, and you just have to send like radio down some private keys once you've done it, like the scope for expanding your wealth that way. Yeah, so if you just want to go up there and mine Bitcoin, then it's just the possibilities are limitless, really, of how much wealth. But then, like, what made me feel a bit better about it was there is a limit to how many bitcoins can be mined, at which point it has to stop. There'll be a scarcity, but at least the sort of resource destruction has to stop with Bitcoin at a certain point. But then how many other blockchains will people put wealth in that then require... It's scary to think that we've invented something
and it's like,
that is...
Why are we... But this is just more theatre. We're perpetuating the idea of what has value, isn't it? Aren't we?
Oh, the thing is, we need some sort of means of exchange and some way of having these transactions, and Bitcoin is a very good solution to it. But that's why on our Bitcoin episode we talked about our chain, because that was like a different model that isn't all about just sucking resources out of the earth. But I mean, I think it's real in a real sense, in a way that I mean. Well, in a way that the stock market isn't really. Like the stock market, this sort of perceived value of things and how it just kind of... I mean, maybe that's weird, isn't it? Like this fictional type of... It's just, as long as everyone believes that... There's actually a lot of power in people believing a shared fiction. And money is one of those things. So, yeah.
But the theatre that I was referring to in this context was more like the value in accumulating personal wealth and what that's gonna do for you and for humanity. I was thinking about it this morning. I had to go to the bank here to get a piece of paper to show how much money I had in my account. Not a bank statement, a special piece of paper, handwritten on the anyway. But whatever. So, and I had to wait, and it was just like it was all a gross waste of my time. Yeah. And I was thinking, like, sometimes I think of my time in terms of like the money that I'm not. I have a day rate. But I also have the time of, just sitting with my child and reading a story. It's like this time that you're making me sit here has value to me beyond that money can never compensate me for. And that idea that this like Elon Musk with all his fucking greed and his selfishness, and it's that sort of that's the theatre that we still keep talking about in a way that is valuable.
And it's literally where his power has come from, his wealth has come from, his ability to create these narratives, these stories. We're gonna fly to Mars, and this is how we're gonna do it. We're gonna make a neural chip that you can control your things with his skill is not in any sort of like technical thing, it's in creating these narratives, in the same way that Trump's skill is in creating this just fake reality that enough people will buy into. And that's the currency of that fictional narrative has never been more valuable and more powerful.
And the thing about it for me that I think that isn't comprehended by an Elon Musk or a Jeff Bezos or any of these other greedy fuckers is that it makes them unsafe. Like my life is safer and better if all the people around me are safe and well.
Yeah. In
my view.
Yeah.
Like, if they don't have communicable diseases, if they have all eaten, if they're not hungry, if they don't want to rob me, if they're not, my life is better. And that is exactly the piece, I think, that they are missing, the safety. They cannot safety their way out.
But that's because they're thinking in terms of leverage, in terms of what power can they have. And that's when you come to how am I going to control my guards? And like, what leverage will I have over them when the money goes? And it's like fundamental to their worldview that there are limits to it. And maybe if they were a bit more aware of the limits to the so-called leverage that they have, that they might stop being such sociopaths, and they might find a little bit of a balance. Like, I'm trying to learn to do a bit of what Sharon does here and there, because sometimes you can get an awful lot out. You can get a lot more by sort of playing along than you can by just making people feel a bit stupid and worthless and judged, and which I'm sure I've done many times in my life.
I'm sure I have too. But sometimes they deserved it.
Yeah, you always deserved it.
Thing that there was that going, that whole controlling your guards when money has no value. It's like there is no limit to what value to somebody showing them some love and respect gives you. Mm-hmm. That's it. You cannot pay your way out of that.
Think about it in terms of loyalty, if nothing else. Like, understands that though. He's always flattering people. Like he does understand that. Did you see I don't know if this ties in, but it might be fun, although we should finish. Have you seen Boris Johnson's, that little interview with him where he claims that he decided to start going into politics as a sort of midlife crisis? So I had a bit of a midlife crisis in my mid-30s, and I suppose it made me want to start doing more service, find ways of providing some service to my country. I'm like, you are so full of shit. And I know this from Ivanka's story, if nothing else. But I suppose, Boris, maybe if we... he's eventually managed to amass enough leverage to get into power, but his sort of buffoonery, the way he is, I guess, has just made it take a very long time.
I have not seen the video.
It's just a little... I kind of summed it up. There's nothing else to it, really, but it's just a lie. On the same day that there's that quote from the French diplomat saying that he's just a serial liar and just will say whatever and just has no values. He just, he just wants power. And it was like that video came out on the same day, and I'm sure that the two aren't completely unconnected.
No. I suppose it may or may not be tangentially related, but this idea of service. I shared the other week a video of my foster nephew doing his boxing, but then on the 19th of February it was Carers Day or something, or Foster Caring Day, or I can't remember, Kids in Care Day. Anyway, my sister wrote a blog post because, that is providing a service to society for real in a very, very tangible way, not some sort of made up, trapped up Boris style. Can you imagine him? Who does he think he's kidding?
His team was like, what can we come up? What about a midlife crisis? Yeah, sure. I'll say anything.
Yeah.
I think that's how that went.
Dear, oh dear.
Anyway, should we wrap it up? It wasn't a crescendo, but I just wanted to mention that thing. It's all interlinked. Thanks for listening. We are thinking of making this a live recording with possible chat interaction. So we'd probably do it up on YouTube, maybe even Twitch. But if you're a Patreon, you could come and join our the chat and then actually throw ideas in and influence the podcast. So it would be a bit more like a sort of pub talk. And so that's something we're just kind of kicking around the idea of, and just let us know if you're interested by supporting us on Patreon.
Yes.
Perhaps. Or just send us an email or whatever. We'll still want to do it on a Friday morning, which might not work for everyone or anyone.
But unlikely to work for most people, but
Well, it's certainly right in these times. It's probably if you're listening to stuff in the day, then it might work. I'm seeing a lot of people joining my stream just to while they're at work, just to have something on,
have some background noise.
It could work. It could work. Otherwise, you can communicate with us asynchronously as well via. Where can people find you on the internet?
People can find me at Ivanka, where I have a blue tick on Twitter.
Blue tick. She's got a blue tick. There's no blue tick for this guy. At Michael Forrest on Twitter. He's very far away from a blue tick. Are you at 10,000 followers yet?
I don't know.
Shut up.
I genuinely don't know. I can't believe most of those people don't unfollow me when they realise I'm not Ivanka Trump, but people do follow me.
Ivanka's got 9,553 followers. So
follow me on Twitter. Add to my number. Help me reach 10,000, and then I will be the winner.
Sustain the delusion.
Of the numbers. What it does though is give you better filters for when people accidentally tweet abuse at you. So that was part of my reasoning
the reward
for getting a blue tick.
People in your mentions, cleaning up your mentions, as the Twitterati say.
Do they?
Come and join. I'm streaming a lot, so if you want to just come and chat and hang out with just me, I might be programming, I might be doing some music, I might be doing some graphic stuff. You can just come to twitch.tv/Michael Forrest and join in. And that's it really, isn't it? Send us an email, hello@grandpodcast.com, and we'll see you next week. Bye!
Bye! See you next week. Bye!
Video episodes on Patreon. Bye!